Hello everyone and welcome to another video on JavaScript programming. Kaushal this side from SimpliCode. Today we are going to discuss arrow functions in JavaScript. Don't go with the hardness of the name, it's just a way to define a function in JavaScript. We'll go through it in detail. So before we begin, make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and press that bell icon to never miss an update from SimpliCode. So without any further delay, let's get started. Now, we have been using functions in almost every video since we came across this topic, whether it be DOM manipulation or using an event in JavaScript. Functions are everywhere, right? So this concept of arrow functions is just a change in the syntax of declaring and defining a function. So let's go through the concept of functions in JavaScript quickly so that it will be easy to change the syntax later. What we'll do is we'll create a function with multiple parameters and then we'll create another function with no parameter at all. So we know these concepts already. So let's write the code here. So we'll go to a JavaScript file and we'll write code here. So we'll write a function. Let's say the function name is func1 and then this function have two parameters a and b. Now this function will return something. So we'll write here return. Let's say this returns a plus b. Fine. Now the code we wrote here is to find the sum of two numbers, right? We'll pass the two numbers as arguments while calling the function. So let's check on the console once if the code is working fine or not. So we'll save it, move back to the browser, go to inspect and then we'll go to our console and we'll write here function name and then we'll pass certain parameters, right? So let's say the parameters we are passing are 15 and 25. So the output we are expecting is 40 and the output is correct. We have the output as 40. You can see here we have the output as 40 here. So this function is working totally fine. Next up, we'll create another function first and then we'll move to the arrow function syntax. So for the second function, we'll write here function. Let's say the function name is func2 and this function will have no parameters at all, right? So let's say this function prints something on the console, right? So we'll write a console.log and then let's say this function prints welcome to SimpliCode. We are done with it. So let's do one thing. We'll call this function here. We'll write here func2. Calling the function is pretty easy. We can do the same thing here as well. So let's save it and check the output. Here you can see we have the output as welcome to SimpliCode in our console. So this is how we were using functions till now. The simple syntax for functions, right? So let's move on to the concept of arrow functions. Now this function over here has two parameters, right? This function has parameters a and b. And what we'll do is we'll change the syntax of this function and the new syntax will be more simple once you get used to it. So let's write the newer syntax just below the previous one. We don't need the function keyword with arrow functions. So all we have to do is we have to take a variable. So let's do it first. So let's say we have a variable where arrow1. Fine. So this is our variable. This statement is simple. We have a variable named arrow1 and this will be the function name. So arrow1 will be the function name as well, right? When we use the function keyword in traditional syntax of functions, it automatically creates a variable with the function name. Here we have to declare the variable by ourselves. Next up, we have two parameters here, a and b. As you can see here, we have a and b. We'll write the parameters within parenthesis now. So what we have to do is we have to write parameters. So let's say the parameters are a and b for this function as well. So these are the parameters. We have to write them within parenthesis. Now we'll use an arrow that actually makes this variable a function. Now this is the main concept. To create an arrow, what we have to do is we have to write equals to and then we have to write this. So this is the arrow mark which makes this whole statement a function. And then we'll write the body of the function. So the body of function will remain same. So we'll copy the body from here and we'll paste it here. So this function here, this function arrow1 here is the same as function func1 and the output will be the same. this arrow function here has only one line here. So the advantage provided by arrow functions in this case is quite helpful. What we can do is we can make this function a one-liner if we remove this return keyword and the curly braces here. So we can remove these curly braces as well. What we have to do is we have to make this function a one-liner, right? So there will be no difference now. So this is how the arrow function for this traditional function looks like. Now both the functions will return the sum of two numbers. The only difference is in syntax. Let's check the output for the arrow function as well. So what we'll do here is we'll save this program and we'll go to a console. So let's do one thing. We'll call func1 first, and the parameters, let's say, are 5 and 15, and then we'll call the arrow function with the same parameters. So we'll write here arrow 5, 15. Now we have the output as 20 in both the cases, right? So these two functions are working similarly. These two functions are same. The only difference is in the syntax. Next up, we have another simple function here, and what we want to do here is to convert this traditional function into an arrow function. Right, now we are talking about function func2. So let me comment this first function here. What we'll do is we'll comment this, and now we are good to go. So we have function func2 here. Now what we'll do is we'll create an arrow function for this function. So we'll write here, let's say we are writing here where arrow2, and then we have no parameters, so empty parenthesis, and then we have the arrow operator. So the body will remain the same. We'll copy the body from this function and we'll paste it here. Now we have used empty parenthesis here because we don't have any arguments here. Let's try to run this code. We'll call the function here only. So for this we have to write here arrow2 and we are good to go. So save it, and the output we are expecting is welcome to SimpliCode twice because we are calling func2 as well, right? So save it, and here you can see the output is welcome to SimpliCode. Let's change something here. So what we'll do is for arrow function we'll write here Simplilearn. Fine. So save it now, and here you can see we have the output as welcome to SimpliCode and welcome to Simplilearn. Let me zoom it for you if it's not visible. So here you can see the first output for func2, it says welcome to SimpliCode, and for arrow2 it says welcome to Simplilearn. That's working fine. Now before we wrap up this video, let me tell you another benefit of using arrow functions. So we already discussed that we don't need to use the return keyword if we are writing a one-liner function. Similarly, if we have a single parameter, we don't need any parentheses. We'll create another function here. So let's say we are writing here where arrow3, and let's say it has only a single parameter as new name. Fine. Then we'll use the arrow operator, and then inside the body of this we'll write here console.log, and then we'll write here hey there plus the name provided by us in the argument. So now we are good to go. This function here will give us the output as hey there, and then whatever name we'll pass while calling the function. So let's check it. Let's call this function as well. So let's say we are writing here arrow3, and the name, let's say, will be Kaushal. Save it, and here you can see it says hey there Kaushal for arrow function 3. So this is also working fine. And I hope you guys are now clear with the arrow functions in JavaScript. It's not essential to use arrow functions everywhere, but now that we are clear with promises and callback functions, it will be good to write minimum code, and the arrow function will help you with that. So that's all for this video, guys. See you in the next one where we will go through timing functions in JavaScript. If you liked this video, do give it a thumbs up. If you have any doubts, do let us know in the comments below. Share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe SimpliCode. Thank you.